morning, students. Welcome back to yet another class of this algorithm. Today, we are going to discuss more about the complexity of algorithms. What are the various cases of complexity? How some step count of the statements in the algorithm will help us in analyzing an algorithm. These things we are going to study in today's class. Now, let us start with some complexity of algorithms. So the complexity of an algorithm is always given as a function. We call that function as f of n. And that f of function, the function f of n will give the analysis about the runtime of the algorithm and storage space requirement for that algorithm. Storage space of an algorithm is nothing but the space required for the fixed constants and the variables and the dynamic variables that are used. Okay. Now we will concentrate more and more on the running time of an algorithm. As I said now, the complexity function comes under three cases, namely best case, average case, and worst case. Best case, average case, worst case. What is the best case? The minimum possible value for the complexity function f of n is called the best case. So the complexity function takes the, if it takes the minimum value, then that is the best case. Then the average case is nothing but the average of all the input size when they are considered. When all the inputs, n inputs are given equal importance and equal opportunity, then we will go for average case. Then the worst case is the maximum value of the complexity function that can attain. That is the worst case. So with this understanding, let us look at one example, very simple example. Now, look at this linear search of an element in an array. This you must have known from the first year onwards itself. Certainly in first year of your C language practical, you must have written a program to search for an element in a given list of numbers. Okay, there are several methods are there to search for a value in a given list of arrays. Usually what we do is we store all the elements to be searched in an array, and we will get as an input which element to be searched. Then we will start searching from the first element, second element, third element of that array, then till the last element of the array. If the element is found anywhere in between, then we will say the element has been found, otherwise the element has not been found. That is the idea behind the linear search. Then there is another method called binary search, where we will divide the given list of numbers into two halves and search for the value in the first half, search for the value in the second half. That's how the searching mechanism will go on. That is binary search. Here I am not discussing about that binary search, rather I am discussing about linear search. So as I said, linear search, given a list of numbers in an array and given an element to be searched, I will start my search from the first index, second index, third index up to the last index of that array. And you know that the index of the array starts from 0, not from 1. Okay, so with that understanding, you see this coding for this linear search. Here I have a function called search, and this is ARR is the array to be searched. And what is the size of this array? N is the size of this array. What is the element to be searched? X is the element to be searched. So I have a local variable called I. I use a for loop to index through from the 0th index up to the n-1th index. So if starting from the 0th index, if ARR of 0 is equal to X, then I have found out the value. Otherwise, I will increment the for loop by 1, then I will search for ARR of 1 and check whether that value in ARR of 1 is equal to X. Like this, the loop will terminate. Okay. If the element X is available anywhere in between the index 0 and n minus 1, then the index value is returned. Where in which index that value is available, that is returned. Otherwise, if the element is not there, then -1 is returned. That is the logic behind this searching function. Here comes the main. So here I declare the array, initialize it with 1, 10, 30, 15. The element to be searched is 30. And n is equal to size of this array is 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 is the size. So n get the value of 4. So I will start from 0 to less than 4. So 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. It will be searched, and the value 30 will be searched, and the index value 1, 2. Index value of this 30 is 2. That will be given back. That is this linear search algorithm. Now we go for the best case, average case, and the worst case of this linear search. Worst case. I give you one very simple example. Supposing I am conducting a class for some 50 students. I want to know whether one student is present on the day or not. What I can do is I can start from the first student sitting in the class. I will successively go for that student, search. Okay, first student is not the student I am looking for. Second student is not the student I am looking for. Like this, I will keep on going. So if that student happens to be the very last student means, then I have to do some 50 searches. Okay, after completing that 50 searches, I find that boy in the 50th location. So I have to search all the available boys in the class, then that is the worst case. Then even more worst case is I am searching for the boy who is not in the class. There also I have to search for the boy from the first boy onwards till the 50th boy. Then I will get to know that that boy is not in the class. And that is the worst case. So here I do n number of comparisons, that is 50 number of comparisons. So that is the worst case. So in that case, the complexity of that the complexity function f of n of that search is order of n. I have to search all the given values, all the given students. That is order of n. So this worst case occurs when the desired record, desired element, or desired student appears in the last position. Okay. And another case is when the desired element or position or record is not even in the given list of numbers. So there also I have to search all the given values. So that is the worst case, okay, of this linear search. Next we go for average case. Average case of this linear search problem. So here there are some n elements, and each elements are given equal opportunity, equal weightage. In that case, the average case is out of n values, I am searching for the first value. I am out of n values, I am searching for the second value. I am out of n values, I am searching for the third value, fourth value, fifth value, like that n values. Out of n values, I am searching for the nth value. That means the average of all these searches is nothing but 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus up to n divided by total numbers given n. So it is 1 plus 2 plus, okay. What is the formula for this 1 plus 2 plus 3 up to n? N into n plus 1. That is n into n plus 1 divided by 2. N into n plus 1 divided by 2. Already in the denominator we are having n. So it is n into n plus 1 divided by 2n. Solving this expression, we get that This n and n gets cancelled, so we will get n plus 1 divided by 2. Okay, so the average case is the average case is n by 2. Average case is n by 2. How come it is so? So I recall what I told you in the last class. We used to neglect the constant values, and so it is n by 2 plus 1 by 2. That 1 by 2 is a constant value, that we will leave it out. Then see, it is 1 by n by 2. That n by 2 can be taken as 1 by 2 into n. Even that coefficient 1 by 2 is taken out. So we are getting the average case complexity as order of n. Then what is this best case? So recall the example I gave. I'm conducting a class for 50 students. I'm searching for one student. Then if the student I am searching for is in the very first position of that class, okay, then I have found out that boy in the very first attempt. So the best case is number of attempts is 1. So the best case complexity is order of 1. Order of 1. So now by this time you should have understood what I mean by best case, average case, and worst case. Okay, these things are used to analyze an algorithm. For example, when we are sorting a given list of numbers in the ascending order, based on the arrangement of the given numbers, the algorithm we are writing for that might end up with a worst case or best case or average case, like this. Okay, best case and worst case. Okay, for example, in the case of quick sort, when the elements are almost in the sorted order, but for very few elements, then you will end up with a worst case complexity of that quick sort. Otherwise, if the elements are in almost in a sorted order, then we will get the best case in the quick sort. Like this, the discussion will go on. Okay. Next, our idea is step count of an algorithm that is used for algorithm analysis. Step count analysis. It is a very simple method, and there are certain rules in counting the number of times the given instructions are executed. Counting the number of times the given statements in the algorithm are executed. What are the basic assumptions that you should know? There is no count value for the begin or end statement or open floor and close floor and statements in a given algorithm. Okay. In algorithm, you might use assignment statements and return values. Both this assignment and return statements will have the count value of 1. Count value of 1. Then, if a statement is iterated like a for loop, then multiply the number of times the loop is run. So how many times the given loop is executed, then that is the count for the given basic statement that is iterated. Then, in the case of looping statement, if a looping statement is iterated for n times, then its count is, since it is the statement is iterated n times, it is n. Then after that, there is a conditional checking is there. Conditional checking. So to come out of that for loop. So that conditional checking involves 1 count. So totally it is n plus 1 counts. So for example, for I is equal to 1 to n, do something means, then the count for that for loop is n plus 1. That you should know. So for a for loop starting from the initial value 1 up to the n, the count is n plus 1. So with this, we will look at some examples for counting the steps. Okay. Examples for step count calculation. So summing the elements of an array. Summing the elements of an array. So here my algorithm is algorithm sum. A is the array and n is the number of values. Okay. So in the rule I said the open flows, they do not have any count value, so it is 0. Then I said sum is equal to 0, sum assignment. So for assignment statements, the count value is 1. Then for here you have a for loop. The for loop is from I is equal to 1 to n. What I told you in the last one, for looping statements, the count value is n plus 1. Count value is n plus 1. So for I is equal to 1 to n, so it is n plus 1. Then this assignment, this statement is executed. How many times it is executed? N times. So for each time it is executed, the count value is 1. Since it is executed n times, the count value is n. And this return statement has the count value of 1. Count value of 1. And this close flower has a count value of 0. So what is the total number of counts here? For this sum is equal to 0, we have 1. For this for loop, we have n plus 1. For this statement, it is n because it is iterated n times. Okay, so it is sum is equal, this return statement 1. So it is n plus n, 2n, 1 plus 1 plus 1, 3. So the total count value of this algorithm is, step count is 2n plus 3. The step count of this algorithm is 2n plus 3. Okay. You go for this next example. Adding two matrices. Adding two matrices. So matrix A, matrix B, the answer is stored in the matrix C. M and n are the dimensions of the matrices. For I is equal to 1 to m. Based on the rule given, the count, the step count for this loop is m plus 1. For j is equal to 1 to n. 1 to n. See, for every value of I, the j loop is executed n times. And for this j loop itself, it is n plus 1 times because the condition fails only when j is equal to n plus 1. So it is n plus 1. And this j loop is executed m times. How many times? M times. So when I is equal to m plus 1, this j loop is not executed. So the j loop is executed how many times? M times. So m into, for j loop, how many, what is the step count? N plus 1. So it is m into n plus 1. Then this statement called Cij is equal to Aij plus Bij, how many times it is executed? M into n times. M into n times. So m into n. Now you solve this one, m into n, mn plus m. So m into n, 2mn. Then m into 1, m. So here there is m, here there is m, so 2m. So 2mn plus 2m, and already this one, 1. So the step count of this algorithm is 2mn plus 2m plus 1. 2mn plus 2m plus 1. Now look at this Fibonacci series. You know what is the Fibonacci series? When the third number in the series is nothing but the sum of the previous two numbers. That is what the Fibonacci series is. So if the first sum of x, comma x plus 1 is equal to y, such a series is called as Fibonacci series. So we have an algorithm for this Fibonacci series, and let us see what is the step count of this Fibonacci series. Okay, if n is less than 1. For conditions, what I told you, for conditions, the step count is 1. So the step count is 1. Output statement. Here you see F2 is equal to, it is an assignment statement, so the step count is 1. F1 is equal to 1, the step count is 1. And here you see the loop starts from 2 to n. So had it start from 1 to n, the step count would have been n plus 1. Now, since it is starting from n, we should reduce 1 from that n plus 1. So, the step count for this 2 to n is n. Then, how many times it is these statements are executed? They are executed n minus 1 times because we are starting from 1. So, this f is equal to f1 plus f2 is executed n minus 1 times. F2 is equal to f1 is executed n minus 1 times. F1 is equal to f is executed n minus 1 times. Okay. And this output f. Why I have measured this? Yeah, there is no count for this. See, this is executed only when n is less than 1. Only when n is less than. So that is measured out. So now compute the total number of steps here. N plus n plus n plus n. There are 4 n's. 4 n's. 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. 4 minus 1 minus 1 minus 1 minus 3. So 4n plus 4 minus 3. So 4n plus 1. So the total count is 4n plus 1. Okay. So note that here, if this n is less than 1, for this condition checking it is 1. For this output it is 1. So the total count would be just 2. Okay. So that step count is used in analyzing an algorithm, and of course that is not the exact way, correct way to analyze an algorithm. A more precise method to find the complexity of an algorithm is using this asymptotic notation. There are three notations that are used for this asymptotic notation, namely big O notation, big omega notation, big theta notation. Big O, big omega, big theta notations. Let us see them one by one. This big O notation gives the worst case complexity of a given algorithm, and this big omega gives the best case complexity of the given algorithm, and this big theta is the compact complexity of the given algorithm. Let us see them one by one. Okay. The complexity function f of n is big O of g of n. We should call it as big O of g of n if and only if there exists a positive constant c and n naught such that this f of n is less than or is equal to c into g of n. The symbol is for every n greater than or equal to n naught. That is the meaning. Okay. So when you draw the graph for this one, that is this is y-axis, this is x-axis. This x-axis will tell you the size of the given input, and this y-axis will tell you the time. Okay. Initially, when the input size n is low, the complexity is less. Okay. When n increases gradually, the complexity function f of n will be upper bounded. With that as understanding, you see here, this big O notation is used to denote the upper bound of the given time complexity. Okay, look at this example here. Now let us take this function f 3n plus 2. Okay. How do I say this 3n plus 2 is order of n? You see here, this 3n plus 2 is less than or equal to 4 into n. So now you see here, when n is equal to 1, it is, when n is equal to 1, 3 into 1, 3. 3 plus 2. Here it is 4 into 1, 4. 3 plus 2 is 5. Does 5 is less than 4? No. So it is not the case. Now, when n is equal to 2, you see that it is 4 into 2, 8. Here you see that it is 3 into 2, 6. 6 plus 2, 8. 8 is equal to 8. Now, when n becomes 3, 4 into 3, 12. Here it is 3 into 3, 9. 9 plus 2, 11. 11 becomes less than 12. So, from n is equal to 2 onwards, this function is bounded by this function. This bounded by this function 4n. So here this 4c, this 4 is the constant that is mentioned in the definition C. That is constant C mentioned in the definition. And what is this n naught? After the value 2. From the value 2, this function is bounded by this function. So you can say it is 3n plus 2 is equal to order of 4n. Usually this constant is not taken into account. So it is order of n. Order of n. That is how we calculate this. So this 4n is the upper bound for the given function. Now, you see that the same relationship, same inequality will hold good for n square, n cube, 2 power n, like this. So among this n square, n cube and 2 power n, we get the least value, that is n power 1. So we call that as order of n. Next you see here, it is next function, example, 100n plus 6. How come it is order of n? You see here, 100n plus 6 less than or equal to 101 into n. Here this constant C is 101, and from every value n greater than or equal to 6, this function will become less than this function. So it is bounding this function. So you can call this as order of n. So it is order of n. Actually, it is order of 10n. We won't consider the constant. So it is order of n. Next example, 10n square plus 4n plus 2, this is order of n square. With the same understanding, you can also conclude that this function is order of n square. Next is omega. Just like this omega, big O finds the upper bound, this omega finds the lower bound. So the function f of n is equal to omega of g of n. If and only if there exists a positive constant c and n naught such that f of n is greater than c into g of n for every n greater than or equal to. Same definition, here we get the relationship as greater than. You see here, example, 3n plus 2 is greater than or equal to n for every greater than or equal to 1. See, you see here, when n is equal to 1, it is 3 into 1, 1, 3 plus 2, 5. Here n is equal to 1. So 5 is greater than 1. Then n is equal to 2. 3 into 2, 6. 6 plus 2, 8. So n is equal to 8 is greater than 2. So like this, for every value n greater than or equal to 1, this function is bigger than this function. So you can say that this gn plus 2, see this n. This g of n is a lower bound for this 3n plus 2. So you can write it as 3n plus 2 is omega of n. Omega of n. Then same is the case for the another function 10n square plus 4n plus 2 is equal to omega of n square. Here also we will see that for every c is equal to 1 and for every n greater than or equal to 1, we will find that this 10n square plus 4n plus 2 is bigger than n square. Bigger than n square. Next, theta. It binds the given function lowerly and upperly. So the function f of n is equal to theta of g of n if and only if there exists a positive constant c1 and c2 and n naught such that this C1 G of n is less than or equal to f of n, which is less than or equal to C2 into G of n for every n greater than or equal to n naught. See this function 3n plus 10 power 10. See this 3n plus n power 10 power 10 is bigger than 3n for every n greater than 10 power 10, and also this 3n plus 10 power 10 is less than or equal to 4n for every n greater than or equal to 10 power 10. So this C1 is equal to 3, this C2 is equal to 4, and this n naught is equal to 10 power 10, that is 100. Okay, same is the conditions for the remaining examples. Time is getting over. We will see in the next class with more ideas. Okay.